Hi folks, with Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio live stream. Please listen to this presentation as you would a radio broadcast. In this essay, I'd like to talk about the blatant, open and insane discrimination against qualified straight white males in the employment, if I can call it marketplace, in the job marketplace. Now, what sort of got me onto this is, well, two things really, but every day when I'm out dealing with our customers and clients in the business I was sharing, I'm stunned at how there are so many affirmative action and diversity, equity, inclusion hires now in all the bigger companies. Any company that has, does a lot of government business or they're protected by monopolies, they've all gone all in, like way over the top in affirmative action. And they've invented and created jobs like deputy assistant vice presidents for the customer experience and jobs like that. You think, what the fuck is that job? But there are legions of those, those jobs are everywhere, and all these people have to make out like they're doing something. And so we find increasingly that they're being invited or being brought along to the meetings that we need to go to, even though they've got nothing to do with anything. They still come along and try to sound important. Now, most of them have got, if they speak English at all, they've got sub 100 IQs. They've done, gender studies and black studies and gay lesbian studies, lesbian dance. Those are the courses they've done. Or they've been affirmative action gifted degrees in more serious subjects, because every one of those subjects now, could be engineering or whatever, it has an option available to women only or minorities only, an option to say, how has civil engineering affected the lives of women? And so they can just answer that question where there's nobody fails those questions, but they still get given their civil engineering degree, even though they don't know the difference between, concrete or cement or anything at all. They couldn't do a volumetric calculation to save their lives. So anyway, we deal with those people every day. Now, on top of that, I've noticed and have noticed for some time now that if ever a company does hire a capable straight white male, and that doesn't happen at all, but if they do, that person doesn't last very long. They get fired for obscure reasons, such as, well, no, they did a really good job, and they did everything. Yeah, no, they're well behaved, but they just didn't fit in. Or because there are so many affirmative action diversity hires in the business sector now, particularly those that are reliant on government contracts, because there are so many of these diversity hires around that when a capable person is brought in, and it's invariably going to be a straight white male, sometimes a straight white female, but pretty much a straight white male, then that person makes these all these affirmative action hires feel insecure. That person, by their mere capability and their drive, their energy, their commitment, that's what makes these low quality, low IQ, affirmative action hires, makes them feel bad about themselves. Suddenly they realize what a capable person actually looks like. They go, holy crap, this is making me feel bad. And then they go whinging and moaning to HR, maybe even inventing stories of, Billy Bob looked sideways at me, and it's because, he hates black lesbians, that sort of stuff. And before you know it, the white guy's gone, even though they've got no complaint. Yeah, I don't know, he just didn't kind of fit in. But what about these people that, the black lesbian that only turns up one day a week, and even then is, what about that? Why isn't she getting fired? Well, we've got quotas to meet and this sort of stuff. So it's a crazy, insane world that we've been living in for some years now, and it's reached its zenith, hopefully recently. And again, hopefully this will all be the process of unwinding it and returning to sanity will start to happen with the arrival of the new Trump administration in the United States. And you'd say it's already happening to some extent. There are companies already coming out and publicly stating they'll get rid of their DEI department. Now, I suspect a number of them will simply spread that around into other areas, rather than instead of calling it DEI, they'll call it something else. The equality department, or they'll still keep it, but just call it something else. And there'll be others that will jettison it entirely. But hopefully, the Trump administration, the DOJ, follows it up and really and drags companies into court that still practice it. But what's brought it to the fore, just now is, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago, one of my colleagues passed through a call to me, and it was a guy who said he wanted to come and work for us, that sort of thing. And so I said, look, we don't need anybody. We're not looking to, there's no vacancy we're trying to fill. And the payroll is pretty much loaded up at the moment, so I'm not looking at adding any additional cost to it. And he said, look, at least talk to me. It'd be nice to talk to a straight white male and not some snot-nosed 19-year-old, bimbo, low IQ bimbo that's been trained to believe that we're surrounded by Nazis and Hitlers and anyone over the age of 40 is Hitler personally, that sort of stuff. So, and I understand what he means. I'm aware of that, and I've seen it around. So, really, just as I suppose as a courtesy, he seemed like a nice enough guy. Seemed capable enough. He doesn't live far away, so I said, well, sure, I'll meet you. We had a cup of coffee and had a kind of a good chat, I suppose. But I thought he was going to burst out in tears at one point. Now here's a guy. He wouldn't even 5 years older than me, if that. And so I always get the thought in these sort of interactions that, but for the grace of God, there go I, type thing. And he sort of started off professionally, but gradually, and I tried to be sympathetic, but I suppose aloof to a point. But he was talking about how many, he applies for a gazillion jobs, and if he's lucky to even get an interview, he then gets interviewed by, again, some snot-nosed teenager and so on. And he's now his resume is pretty similar to mine. I mean, he's, again, more or less in my wider age group, and he's done the general manager and the VP and the EVP. He's done all that sort of stuff. Maybe not quite as much as I have, but more or less. I mean, again, our resumes aren't that different. And so, and he's got some real accomplishments and credentials. He got a college degree, a university degree at the time when you actually had to pass it, and on merit. He's got jobs on merit. He's been hired by people he doesn't know, as in, one of the toughest gigs, but equally a sign of what you can do is to sit in front of people who you don't know, and they don't know you, and you don't know anyone in common. So you can't call up, his buddy Billy Bob and say, what do you think of Jimmy Jack? There's none of that. It's completely cold. He doesn't know you, and you have to be hired on merit. That's the only way you're going to get hired. And he's got a number of jobs on that basis, and his resume is pretty impressive. Now, he's not in the buttons of his ass, this guy. He owns his house in a nice enough area. His wife still works. I don't know if it's part-time or whatever. I don't know what she does. I didn't ask. But he mentioned she's still working. He's got, he's still got relatives that are yet to die that he's going to inherit stuff from. So, he's not on the street begging for scraps or anything. He's doing all right. And wearing a very sharp suit, and which he didn't need to, but he funded it. So, but anyway, he's talking about how he's rejected left, right, and centre, and the humiliation of being interviewed by snot-nosed teenage girls. When he's a sort of senior exec man, and so on. So, and again, his voice sort of quivered, and his top lip quivered, and I felt bad for him, and not that it changed anything. If I'd had a vacancy, somebody like him would be capable, dependable, reliable, solid, and if there was a vacancy, that's the thing. I would have, I'd certainly consider him, if not give him the gig. But the guy has he's been spending something like 2 years. So he says 2 years, desperately trying to get a job. It's not that he needs it financially, or maybe he does, but again, he's not on the bones of his ass. But this sense of rejection, and how can someone as accomplished as him be so unwanted, and not only unwanted, sneered at. And he went into that, how these teenage, snot-nosed sort of recruiters in HR, how they treat him like shit and try to humble him and humiliate him and give him the well, why should we listen to you, you damn Nazi fascist, that type of thing. And then he again, I was very courteous to him. He was pointing out that I was 10 times more courteous and polite and so on than any of those snot-nosed punks are. But I said to him, look, they've been through the DEI mill. They're low IQ people who never could have got a job on merit, and here they are now sitting in the chair, lording it over. What they've been trained to believe are all Nazis and fascists and Hitlers and so on. So, and he was acutely aware of that. But this is the thing. Now, if you look at this a guy as capable as him, again, he's older. I mean, he seems to be in decent enough shape. I wouldn't call him in superb physical shape, but it's decent enough for a guy of his age. He's better than quite a few I know. So he's a very fit, experienced, credentialed, capable, high accomplishment guy who is unable to get a job and who is being treated like dirt by snot-nosed punk gender studies bimbos. And so, something's terribly wrong if that's the case. Now, Australia's supposed to have this skills shortage and shortage of workers and this and that, and we can't find anybody, which is all lies, by the way. And yet, if that is true, then a guy like this would be snapped up in seconds. I didn't detect any bad attitude on his part, so it's not like an attitude thing where he's just rubbing people up the wrong way. I didn't, certainly not with me anyway. I didn't detect that. And he at the end he thanked me profusely for the first, as he said, first sensible sort of professional interview. And it wasn't really an interview, just a chat, a professional interview he's had since forever. And so that was it. Now, again, the tragedy, if not the criminality of this, is that someone like him looking for a job is unemployed at all. He should be able to get a job in seconds flat. And yet here he is, reduced in effect to calling rando people, and not quite, but close to really begging for a handout. And I wanted to stop him because I didn't want him to demean himself. You don't need to do that. You come across a professional guy, there's nothing wrong with you. Don't think there is. The situation has gone insane. Affirmative action, diversity, equity, inclusion, all of this stuff has created a world of insanity, and that's the issue. Don't think it's you, it's not. And I tried to reassure him along those lines. But that's where we're at now, and that's one of the, I came away because he called me actually. The reason it's fresh in my mind now is he called me yesterday again just to thank me, and I gave him a bit more reassurance. But it angered me that somebody as capable as that, who's achieved what he's achieved, is in that sort of predicament. And that is a crying shame when there are masses of illiterate third world peasants being brought in and given jobs. There are affirmative action, diversity jobs being given to Indians by the fuckload all over business and the public service, who have just walked off the boat or the plane. And yet here's this guy, Australian-born, very capable, high achiever, great accomplishments, qualifications, and he's in effect, in this crazy world, he's been rendered unemployable, not because he's unemployable, but because of the madness. You've been with Tacitus today, your Pushback channel. Thank you for listening.